Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Richardson. I'm Associate Dean here in the Lubin Business School of Graduate Programs, but I'm really delighted to sort of be hosting today and to introduce you all to Julian Alston, who will be here speaking as part of our Dean's Roundtable program. Julian is one of our more recent alumni to participate in the program. He's graduated in 2018, so not really that long ago. He was a management major and had a focus in entrepreneurship. During his time at Pace, he participated in he was very involved in the campus, participating in summer orientation, very involved in the Black Student Union, and also in Pace's student government. And he served as the president of the student government as well. Since graduating, Julian has really immersed himself in the tech space, working for companies like Tesla, Better.com, CB Insights, Coinbase, and currently he is working for a company called Milo, which he will tell you all about. He's the chief of staff to the CEO. It's based in Miami, and it's a fintech company. They most recently were one of the first organizations to successfully launch the world's first cryptocurrency mortgage, which is super interesting. And as well, Julian is also a founder and co-chair of the Pace University Black Alumni Group. And they have a wonderful mission to provide mentorship, support, and relationship equity to Black students and staff at Pace. So with that sort of brief intro, I'd like to hand it over to Julian. And we'd love you, Julian, to tell us a little bit more maybe about kind of your background experiences. And then, of course, we'll open it up to you all for some Q&A.
Awesome. Well, Kate, thanks so much for the introduction. That was very, very kind and very in detail for sure. So I'll try to drill down even more so. But for me, Julian Alston here, originally from the suburban Philadelphia area, spent some time with my family in Brussels, Belgium as a child, Montreal, Canada, a bit of time in Cleveland, Ohio, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then came back to suburban Philly to wrap my high school career. And then I found Pace. Fortunately, I always say all the time, I met my wife there, my best friends there. So I'm very fortunate to have my Pace career. But yeah, kind of drilling it back, I actually was super hell-bent on playing college basketball in high school. A lot of the universities that were interested in me or shared mutual interests were kind of smaller Division III schools. And, the tuition, the scholarships weren't really there, right? So when Pace came knocking, they had a campus recruiter come to our school, and my parents like, hey, we love this university. We've read all about it. You should go. And I was totally brushing them off. I was like, no, if I can't play basketball, I'm not going. So they begged me to go to this event. I ended up going, dragging my feet. And I was the last person out of the room talking to the recruiter, talking her head off. I fell in love with what she was pitching. The dual campuses between Westchester County and New York City, being in New York itself, the hustle and bustle of the city and the grit, I just fell in love with it. So I was like, whether basketball or not works out, I want to be at Pace University. So just fell in love from there, visited the school. It was like a breath of fresh air, right? Seeing all the different things Pleasantville could offer and being very close to the Metro North, a train ride away from the city to the city campus and everything it could offer there. So just fell in love with it. And originally came to the university as a communications major. Didn't work out too well. I love the public speaking like we're doing now, but I just fell in love with the initiatives and the energy of business. And I saw a lot of my best friends who are my best friends still to this day, finance majors, accounting, management. I said, I should really give this a try. And back at the time, it's funny. I was actually a huge fan of the Social Network movie for Facebook or Meta, if you want to call it that now. I just fell in love with the idea of working at a startup, disrupting an industry or a sector, right? Fundraising from different investors or VCs. And, here we are today. So happy to drill down more if folks have questions, but yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Great. So I'm just going to start. Did you end up playing? Did you play basketball here then?
I did. No, but not Pace University. I did intramurals. Was a 2-time champ. I will say that. I have something to say about. But just high school, and then my passion changed. And when I got to Pace University, I just saw all the different extracurriculars they offered: student government, Black Student Union, all the different alumni programs as well. It really did really capped out my time per se. So I was very busy where I didn't really focus on basketball anymore. And I think it worked out personally in my career. So I'm very excited about that.
Yes. And so you kind of had a major change, right? You
Yes.
thought maybe you want to do communications and then found your way over. We're delighted that you found your way over to Lubin. But so then how, like when, because I know I'm sure some of the students here also, struggle with some of the same things.
Yeah.
What should they major in? And
Yeah.
when did you decide on entrepreneurship and how did you sort of come to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was after one semester, believe it or not. I kind of, and this is no slight to communications majors. It's all important, right? Very needed in our industries. But for me, it just felt like I wasn't implementing enough of my energy and my personal skills, right? Public speaking, networking, connecting the dots, business analysis, really understanding a business and kind of the gaps and holes and where we kind of can improve. So I just fell in love with the whole entrepreneurship umbrella, right? Where you can kind of really build something from scratch, take a product from 0 to 1, really loop in other people. Hey, so-and-so does products. Julian's really good at sales, business development, marketing. We have Jill doing some of our finance. So I just really fell in love with the team effort that came into building a business together. And it kind of just was a perfect match for me.
Great. Well, I'd like to open it up here to our guests to see if anyone has any questions for Julian. Feel free to, raise your hand or shout out or put something in the chat. And I know Molly's going to assist with monitoring that as well.
Don't be shy.
I'm going to continue with, oh, sorry. Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Walter.
I would just like to start with what, I don't know if I just missed it, but what was your position in a student government?
Yeah, sure. I was president my senior year. So junior year, I was vice president. And then I was like, let me just go back again and see how crazy this can go. And I was president my senior year. So it kept me busy for sure.
Sure, go ahead, Sabrina.
Hi. At Pace, did you do any internships, or like how did you find these internships if they were through Pace?
I think I heard internships. I think it was a little choppy, but I think I understood fully. So for me, as far as internships, I knew coming in freshman year, I had to get those internships in because it's so vital and important, right? Kind of coming out of college. I know a lot of folks from my graduating class, they wait until junior, senior year, which is totally fine. But for me, I knew with the career, focus I had, I really wanted to dive headfirst into tech, and it's very competitive, as I'm sure a lot of you know. So I was, going into it headfirst freshman year. So initially, my first internship was actually on campus where I did summer orientation. So I worked in the office. I'm not sure what it's called now, but back in my time, I sound old, geez. It was the SDCA, Student Development Careers Association Center. So there, we worked with incoming students coming in, doing all the organizational kind of tasks, setting up events, coordinating with vendors. And that kind of put me a little more in a polished state for my next internship, which was at Comcast back in my lovely city of Philadelphia. So I was a business analyst intern there. Just learned a lot, honestly. I think the biggest thing being an intern is being a fly on the wall, right? If you have the opportunity to really listen and learn from senior directors, senior managers at a large firm or small firm, right? These folks are getting paid a salary to do things every single day to reach a certain business goal. So if you can soak up as much as you can, that's a win, regardless. It's paid, non-paid, if you enjoy it or not, just soak it up, right? Because my biggest thing is I have a mantra I live by as far as like internships go is I rather fail and know I exhausted all my options than not do it and be like, I wonder if I really went down this avenue, what could have happened? So that's kind of something I live by. So that was my second internship there. My third, which is my favorite, actually was at a fintech startup called Orchard Platform. No one's probably heard of it, but it was a very small loan origination startup. And it's funny that currently our board of directors in my current job, the CEO there is actually now one of our VCs, our venture capitalists and investors. And my old manager of an internship was also our head of people operations here at my company. So that just goes to show, the effort you put in at an internship, whether you're filing paper, docking Excel sheets, whether you're going to get lunch or doing errands, people remember how you act and how you behave and how you conduct yourself, not only from a business standpoint, but from a social, emotional, as well as just being an overall good person standpoint. So it's always important to always put your best foot forward because you never know who's looking, you never know who's hiring. next year, 2 years, 3 years from now. So it's always good to kind of move in that regard. So I know it's a long-winded answer. I apologize, but you know, you had me going.
Well, next is Glenn.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. I
sorry.
was sorry about that. Yeah. I guess just what advice do you have for people who are looking to go into the tech, like the tech industry with not as much experience as, with not as much experience?
Yeah, I mean, I started no experience as well, so we're all starting kind of at slate zero per se. I think the biggest thing is knowing what you don't like, and that kind of circles back to my my statement about just doing a lot of internships, whether they're paid, not paid, in semester, over the summer, so you can kind of figure out what you like and what you don't like. Because the worst thing that I probably experienced was coming out of college, and we can kind of dive into this a little more, was working at Tesla. Really enjoyed it. Great brand, right? Elon Musk, everyone knows who that is. But the day-to-day task really wasn't for me, right? So I have no regrets of that career move. It definitely helped my resume as a booster. But if I would have maybe done a little more digging, a little more research in my college years, I probably would have known ahead of time, hey, maybe I'm not a huge fan of this role, but I love the company, so I'll just go in and maybe I can, get promoted, finesse my way to another role, another department. But I think the biggest thing is just knowing your direction. You don't have to have everything set in stone. I like to say life is a windy road, it's not a straight highway. So you may have a plan, but some things may drift off to the side. You may, hey, I never knew I loved doing X, Y, Z, or hey, I thought I was going to do this, but I absolutely hate it now that I'm in the role full time. So I think the biggest thing is just having your direction before you go into it. That's a good question. Thank you for asking that.
No, thank you.
Hey, hey, Julian. So it's Alessandro here again. It was great meeting you. Thank you again for your time. And it was really a pleasure just hearing about your story, and just I'm a senior right now, so just seeing all the possibilities that we have coming out of PACE. And my question is, I know it was not long ago, but if you were a fresh graduate once again, given the environment, given the, I guess, macroeconomics, but also the tech ecosystem where it is right now, what sort of opportunities or what sort of companies would you pursue? And yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a really, really good question. For me, looking into tech space now, as you mentioned, macroeconomics are definitely affecting, the overall economy, right? The way folks are hiring, doing mass layoffs. So for me, if I was on the other side of the coin, like coming in as a senior into the new world as a new professional, I would really look at companies I truly believe in, right? So I think a lot of times, for me at least, folks look at tech and say, hey, it's a huge paycheck, which a lot of times it really is, but you don't want to live for that aspect, right? My biggest thing was I truly believe in the company I'm working for now. I believe in the founder. I've met his family, his kids. I believe in his vision, and I want to help him execute. So for me, whether it's working in fintech, or maybe it's working in pharma tech, or working in marketing tech, if you believe in the vision of the company and you feel you can add value to that firm, I think that's the biggest thing, looking towards the macroeconomics, because you can't really control that, right? You can't click a button and say, hey, no more issues financially. We can't call Biden or whoever the president will be in the future, to kind of change things around. But as long as you kind of have your expectations of yourself and the company, right? Because it is a mutual fit, right? You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. If there's a mutual fit, I think that's the opportunity you should go for the best. Good to see you again, though. We got to get you down to Miami soon, hopefully.
I'll chime in with another question I had.
Sure.
Julian, you have such an interesting background in terms of, growing up and living abroad, and in Canada and stuff. Did you do any study abroad in your time here? And if not, in your time at PACE rather, and if not, what do you think about for these students? Is that a worthwhile opportunity? What can you, from your time living abroad, what do you think that can benefit if, the students?
Yeah. Absolutely. Great question. So unfortunately, I did not have the chance to go, but I really, really wish I did. But in terms of students who have the opportunity to do so, please do it. I think that, especially from a business standpoint, as you all know, the globe is so big. There's so many different opportunities in the world. And it's funny working for tech, the past 6-7 years, you realize that the world isn't that big, but it truly is, if that makes sense, where you're so interconnected, right? Like my last job at Coinbase, I was a global blockchain operations manager, and I oversaw a remote team of folks, transaction analysts in the US, but I also oversaw a team of folks in Dublin, Ireland, and then had the opportunity to launch a new team in Singapore to basically appease to like a 24/7 client services cycle where folks were calling in, wondering about their account with Coinbase. It could be any time of the day, any time of the night. We'll have a team to kind of service those, consumers. So for me, it's like, if you can really take the chance to just really dive into a new culture, right? Be there for a few months, learn from your fellow students. It makes all the difference because you're already ahead of the curve, right? The global world is here and it's not going to change. So if you can kind of tackle that initiative now, you're already ahead of the game coming out of graduation. I think Glenn has one more. I'm not sure if that's okay.
Oh yeah, sure. I was just wondering, how important do you think it is to like keep changing jobs and keep getting new experiences? Do you think it's important to like be constantly going into new jobs, new areas, new fields?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it also depends on the individual, right? It also depends on your industry too. Like, for example, my mother, she works for National Grid, and she worked for Comcast in the past, Eaton, Kellogg's out in Michigan. So for her, whenever I'm working at these startups and worked there for like 1.5 or 2 years, she says, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with these young people. What happens to working 20 years and doing your time?" And so I think it depends on who you're talking to. But for me, I look at it like this. I do feel like when you're working for a company, you are paid to do a role and they are using you for that. But at the same time is you're using them as well to learn, right? To network, build connections, build at your resume. And if you feel like at that time, hey, I've done my time and I feel like I can really grow and take my talents elsewhere, that's more power to you. I really do believe that if you feel like you're happy where you are and you're adding value, then you should have the conversation with yourself. And if you are truly a vital part of the team, then that's another conversation as well. But I would never fault anyone for jumping to another role if they feel like it's a better title, better pay opportunity, it's a better location for them. It really depends on your personal situations and where you're trying to take your career.
We have a question from Sophia.
Hi, what are some of the skills you picked up in your entrepreneurship classes here at Lubin that you still carry with you today in the fintech industry?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me think about that one. I'd probably say like analyzing a business to its core, right? So when a business is super like early stage, you can really, it's funny, like we have a whiteboard here in the office in Miami, and we can literally look at each department and like look at what they're doing. When you go to a larger corporation, like for example, Coinbase, it's a public company, you're not going to touch every fashion or facet of the business. Here being a Milo, it's a 42-ish company spread. We have an office here in Miami and then one in Cali, Colombia as well. I literally talk to everyone. So my biggest thing I learned from like my entrepreneurship classes was really dissecting a business and seeing, hey, where are the gaps? Where are the issues, right? How can we excel this department, right? How can we move this products forward? So that's probably the biggest thing I've learned, which was, awesome. It's a blessing for sure.
Okay, Isabel.
Hi, how do you feel that your degree with management is helpful in the tech field?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I think with management, it definitely taught me a few different insights. Time management is huge. It's bigger than people think. And I know that sounds like cliche, but you really like when I'm managing, or rather juggling, to be honest, cross-functional projects between product, engineering, sales, right? Special projects that my CEO will throw me on because he doesn't have the capacity to do so. You have to be able to really time out your day. If you don't, nothing will ever get done. So that's one of the biggest things I've learned, which is small, but so key in life. Another is just networking, right? I think when you're in business and in life in general, you're never not networking, you're never not learning. You should always want to soak up any knowledge anyone is telling you and also return that knowledge back to them as well. So it's an ongoing cycle of insight and knowledge and education. But other than that, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I learned from being a management major was just having grit, right? I think Pace University is the greatest school in the country, in my personal opinion. But you still got to have grit. You still got to have finesse, per se. And you still got to have that grind to really be like, hey, I really want to be at the top of the line. I want to be able to work with these certain individuals, whatever your industry or passion may be. So you got to have that fire in your soul, to be honest, to really get the thing moving. So that's probably the biggest three things I've learned being a management major at Pace.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Ryan?
I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Do you see yourself working in crypto long term?
That's a good question. We'll have to see. I mean, it definitely is a tricky industry right now. I know like the US regulations getting involved, which I think is a great thing. We really do need that to accelerate the next generation of crypto adopters and things of that nature. I do think, though, this is my humble opinion, right? I do think that crypto will be here to stay. Do I think it will replace the dollar? I do not think so at all. I do think it's going to be like another asset class. So you have like the dollar, the euro, gold, stock, bonds, crypto, right? So I think it's going to work in tandem with all these different asset classes. And that kind of segues me into what I'm doing here at Milo, essentially, is where we're working with consumers, right, who have, allocated a large net worth of digital assets, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC. And, it's actually funny, back in 2021, I think it was about 20% of US consumers who have allocated crypto, they had to liquidate their assets, which triggers tax issues, right? So their biggest goal is to, diversify their portfolio, but they can't do that without literally losing their money. And these are folks who haven't found crypto 6 months ago. These are more folks who found crypto 6, 7, 8 years ago. So they've invested time, risk, effort, money, obviously, into this portfolio. So our biggest thing with myself and my team, my CEO, is just serving those consumers who have that digital assets in their portfolio and giving them the option, the service that not many other providers can give. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me. But yeah, long-winded answer, I think depends how the industry is moving, and if things are moving in a positive direction, we're actually helping people financially, then I think I'll be here to stay.
All right, thank you. My next question is, I'm an accounting major, and I was just kind of curious of what types of jobs for accountants that you've come across within crypto and tech space.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the FTX debacle, I mean, they didn't have a CFO. So I think you could have stepped in and helped out, to be honest. It doesn't change with your crypto, Web3, traditional finance, fintech, right? It really doesn't matter. You're always running the books. You're always running the balance sheet, making sure things add up. They line up. You're not in the red, you're in the black. So there's always opportunities for accounting majors to dive into crypto if you have the passion and the stomach for it, rather. So there's always opportunities there. So I'm happy to connect with you offline on that too.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah, Julian, you're so enthusiastic. I want to have you come to some of our Pace-bound events for those, 18-year-olds that are thinking about coming to Pace. We need
That's a throwback. Yeah, I should.
Yeah. But speaking of that, let's think about the end, sort of more the end of the 4 years. We may have some students on the line here who are looking to graduate this May. So do you have any advice for them as they kind of, spring break is next week, and then when they come back, it's like the last half of your college, last semester of your college career? Any advice for them in terms of both completing their classes, but also like what to enjoy during senior week and before they leave?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, enjoy your spring break. You deserve it. You worked hard. I know it isn't easy balancing school, friends, relationships, extracurriculars, jobs, internships. So please enjoy your spring break. Seriously. I think other than that, finish strong, and the learning doesn't end, right? I think that was the biggest, not issue on my part, but if I could go back, I would change that. When I graduated, oh yes, I'm done. No more lecture halls, no more learning, but it's like silly of me. You're always learning. If you're not learning, you're not improving. So learning doesn't end. So from that, I would highly recommend everyone to have one of three things. You got to have a favorite newsletter, a favorite podcast, and a favorite social media app that suffices to your I guess you could say general interest. For me, it's LinkedIn. I look at LinkedIn news every single morning. I love the way they kind of snapshot different editorial briefs, and it's very easy to digest. I'm not going to sit here and read, the New York Times. I do sometimes, but not page for page. So you got to have a certain type of outlet there. A newsletter, Morning Brew, if you guys have ever heard of that. It's phenomenal that you get it every morning. It's free. It's literally, I think, a 60 to 75-second read, and it goes through 3 different top items that are kind of popping off in the industry. Usually it's mainly tech and VC information, but I think that's kind of relative to my field, but they do talk about other things as well. And then podcast. I'm a really big fan of A16Z. They're one of the biggest VC firms like ever. So they have a really, really cool podcast that they have weekly. Another is Harlem Capital. They are a minority-focused VC firm based in Harlem, New York, and they invest in the future of Black, Latino, LGBTQ+ founders in the U.S., and they want to provide over $100 million into the next, really, really hustling and bustling founders in those groups. So they have a podcast as well. And then last, fully crypto-focused is Bankless. That's huge as well if you're really curious about just learning more about crypto. If you want to dive in, they have those episodes too. If you want to just kind of know a little bit about what this whole crypto crazy phase is, they have stuff for you as well. But long-winded answer, you don't stop learning. You should never want to stop learning. And that's going to help you propel into your, your future.
That's great. That's music to my ears, because I teach training and development, and I'm teaching it to the undergraduates this semester, and that's one of the we talk about, right? Becoming not just working at a learning organization, but just being a lifelong learner.
Absolutely.
So that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hi,
Sophia,
Julian.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I wouldn't miss this for the world.
I'm glad you're here. It's good to see your face.
So maybe you covered it in your intro, but because I personally know you,
yes,
I know that you were juggling a lot as a senior.
Yeah.
And also, looking for jobs and networking. What would be the best piece of advice? And again, you had lots on your plate as a senior.
Yeah.
What would be your best piece of advice when students are either a senior or who are seniors now, or even some graduate students who might be on here? What is the best thing or the 1 or 2 things you could tell students to how to balance their life and finish strong?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I dive into your question, Ms. Murphy, I will say she was the one person that would tell me, full transparency, hey, you're doing a lot. Not sure it's the best, but you're going to do it. So I know you. So she was always pushing me to be my best. So I always really do appreciate that. And I will never forget that, by the way. So
and you're never disappointed.
I try not to. As far as the balancing act, I guess like getting older, looking back on college and just thinking about, everything I've done, and it's great to look back on that. But I think if I would change anything, you don't have to do everything, right? If you have 1 to 3 really solid things that you're doing well, I would take that any day over, I'm the president of this, and I intern here half the day, and I intern there half the day, and then I also hang out with Ms. Murphy and support her, and I have an on-campus job. It sounds great, but when you're looking kind of drilled down into the whole operation, if you can't give your best self to 1 to 3 areas of your focus, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because you're not really fully engaging into the role or whatever situation you're a part of. And you're also not giving your employer or your teammates or whatever the case may be, your best self, right? So I think the biggest thing is you can definitely balance, be a balancing act, as I was in college, but you don't have to do everything under the sun, right? If you have 1 to 2 to 3 great things in your resume, trust me, that's enough. You are enough, and you're doing a great job.
I think that's great.
Thanks for never, putting me down, Ms. Murphy, though. You always root me on, so I appreciate that.
So hindsight, would you go back and change one thing and not be so omnipresent?
It's tough.
Probably not.
Probably not. The past is the past. You know me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was great to see you. I hope I see
Good
you
to see you
soon.
as well. Yes, absolutely. You too.
Julian, could you speak a little more about the Black University Black Alumni Group and maybe some of
Sure.
the initiative, like sort of why you felt the need to found
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
then what some of the initiatives are that you're doing?
Absolutely. So for me, graduating from Pace University, being a young African-American male, I didn't really have a lot of mentors per se, right? I knew there was folks who worked for the university, but there wasn't really a program that I could go into and knock on the door and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or hey, I could use, a pick me up, or hey, I could use some type of networking support. I really wanted to be the change that I didn't have, right? I wanted to be the helping hand that I was reaching out for, per se. That sounds really cliche. That wasn't my intention, but I really wanted to just be that individual. So myself and my colleague, Arlene Thompson, who's also a Lubin School of Business major, back in 2014, we met up together, with the support of Megan McCain on the call as well. Shout out to her. She put us into the best position to really support us in our goals, but really it was just supporting Black faculty, alumni, and students, and non-Black students as well, who really do believe in the cause and supporting folks of color. So that was just the biggest initiative there, was just being that supporting factor that I didn't have coming out of college, because it is important. It's a scary time coming out of college.
Yeah, so Julian, following sort of was what Ms. Murphy was sort of talking about, of some like recommendations for graduating, or I guess recently grads. And I sort of asked you, like, what will you do? And that was a very interesting answer to hear. But this question is more like, what sort of tips, or what are you seeing both in the crypto industry and tech industry, but also what are you seeing just in the world in general?
Yeah.
What are your sort of like, how are you reading the waves, and what will you say to a I guess to myself, I'm a senior, I'm really interested in the tech industry.
Yeah.
But I've been talking to some small company startup founders, and also just seeing the news of big companies. Many people are just laying off.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a tough time, but it's also an exciting time. We have AI right upon us, which is very exciting. Crypto is also seeing some better levels of adoption than we were seeing, I guess, a couple of years ago. So yeah, what sort of recommendations would you give to a very young person who perhaps doesn't have, a very extensive experience, but have this like sort of eagerness to build small products? So perhaps it's nothing all like just going to companies, but also perhaps I'm asking more in terms of building and actually doing stuff for the world, in terms for you like to build a portfolio and stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know you and I chatted a bit more a couple of weeks ago, but happy to dive in as well for the greater group. I think you can only control what you can control. And I think it's really important to not only do the internships, right? Do the on-campus jobs, right? Do these different initiatives. It's also important to keep self-promoting your own brand, whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's creating different newsletters, right? Creating a Substack, right? Really just building your own subject matter expertise, SME. That's super big in the world of tech. If you can kind of come in, whether you're 21, 31, 41, if you can kind of come in and be a product expert or a product liaison for a certain initiative, CEOs, founders, department heads, they're going to eat that up, right? Because as you mentioned, AI, crypto, right? ChatGPT, everything's changing, right? And it's hard for folks to keep up with everything while also running a business or leading a team. So they're going to look for folks like everyone on this call to be a subject matter expert in your own discipline, right? Whether that's the creator economy, whether that's Web3, whether that's AI, whether that's marketing, whether that's, any case may be. I know TikTok is a huge thing now. It's funny, marketing 10 years ago would not work today, but we're all living in this new tech space now. So we're now kind of in a weird way, the experts. So leveraging that knowledge, expertise, and just self-promoting your own brand is the biggest advice I can probably give anyone, because obviously, we all joke about this, I'm sure. You look at a job description, oh yeah, entry level, 3+ years of experience. You're like, wait, huh? I think the biggest thing is just like taking your own personal portfolio and personal experience and leveraging that. And it's a great opportunity for you guys to really step out into the new workforce.
Great. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna say other questions, please. Other people. Yeah.
Yeah, Tamara Kelly was just letting me know that she's having issues with the raise hand, so she can step in.
Thank you, Molly. I finally got it to work. Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
But good to see you, Julian. Oh my
Guys.
goodness. You know, I just want to thank you for your willingness to give back to PACE. You were one of our best ambassadors, and you're welcome. I just remember last year you spoke to my students and they were just so delighted to hear from you. So I'm just so proud of you, and I want to give you a round of applause. And, you know, you're working on so many things, and I'm just curious, outside of what you're doing professionally and even for PACE, are there other initiatives or projects that you're lending your time to right now? And if you're not, I understand, because I know at some point you have to sleep, but I'm just curious.
I should be bald by now, to be honest. But some other initiatives I do outside of work as well. I actually partner with the PACE Entrepreneurship Studio. So I know we have a new studio there. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, please go. They have an awesome accelerator in partnership with A&D Ventures out in Tel Aviv, Israel. So I've connected with them via President Krizlov. He built a great relationship with them to have this partnership standing. So connect with their team there, lending my hand to whoever or whomever would like to speak with me about just like their startup and building a product from 0 to 1 and product marketing fit and things of that nature. Just kind of lending my hand as far as things that I've learned. I don't know everything yet, and I hopefully wouldn't want to be honest. But just supporting those folks as kind of like a board advisor per se. And then other than that, I picked up the itch for marathon running now. So I did my first marathon back in January. My family and my wife think I'm crazy, but I enjoy it. I don't know. It's the athlete in me. I enjoy it. So I do a lot of my time with that as well.
Okay, well, this is great to hear. You'll have to send us some photos so that we can put them on our social properties. I know Sophia has her hand up, so you just never know. Always possibilities we're working with here. Thank you, Julian.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
So obviously crypto is still relatively new when it comes to mainstream. So I'm guessing that means there are some challenges that I'm sure you have to tackle that have never been presented to people before. How do you kind of overcome those challenges?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And it's funny, with the whole FTX debacle and Celsius and Voyager, and the list kind of goes on and on. It was funny. I was sitting with my CEO when all this was happening in like our little boardroom, and he's like, "Hey, I guess we're the last ones left." And I said, "I hope not, but it is what it is." So I think to answer your question, the big part of it isn't like, obviously it's the tech, right? It's the stack of a company, right? It's your business endeavors, your initiatives, but a big part of it that folks really don't think about is your brand, right? If you are taking care of your consumers' assets, like I mentioned, some of these folks have been investing in crypto since 2012, right? 2014, that's a long time ago now. So that's like almost their lifetime savings and investing and risk. So the biggest thing is just being able to provide a service that folks can trust. And, really being a good, how do you say, I guess you could say a good custodian of folks' assets, right? And really being that individual, that entity that folks can trust and lean on and through these very interesting times, right? Crypto contagion, or you want to call it, folks are going to look for a service or a company or a firm that can kind of lead the way through this time. So I think the biggest thing is just brand reputation and how we're portraying ourselves for our customers.
Walter?
Yeah. So it seems like you've really found your niche in the fintech world in the field. But I was just wondering if there was another industry where you think all of your skills would like really be applicable. But what would you see yourself working in if not fintech?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, it's probably venture capital, and primarily like investing into the creator economy. So I'm sure all you guys have like, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. It's funny, you notice like a lot of like these celebrities, I guess you could say, or folks who have accumulated a really big following. Now these bigger brands are reaching out to them to launch new products and get new customers, because they feel like, hey, if we can sell this product into, let's say, Charli D'Amelio, right? She has so many followers. We're going to be able to captivate and capture more leads and things of that nature. So for me, that's probably the second industry I really want to dive into, is just investing into the creator economy, because the way we interact socially has changed. The way we work together, remote work, hybrid work has changed. So I think, like, you know, the overall like product services as well has changed too. The way we market to people, the way that we connect with folks, it's all disrupted. So I think that's probably the biggest option I would choose if I wasn't in fintech.
Yeah, this kind of maybe capitalize on that question a little bit, but
Sure.
or just really looking to the future.
Mhm.
You know, where do you see yourself, let's say 10 years from now? Or is there a dream job that you're thinking about, or anything kind of long term on your bucket list that
Yeah,
you're willing to share? Yeah.
absolutely. 10 years from now, it'd be great to be CEO of my own firm one day. That'd be awesome. We'll see if I get there. I'm definitely seeing it firsthand. My CEO is a busy man, right? And I'm sure other CEOs and other, you know, senior leaders are busy as well. But I'm kind of excited, energized for the challenge. So I guess we'll stay tuned in the next 10 years to see if I do it.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Julian, I also had like a similar question in mind. I know that startups are not for everybody. You know, being a founder perhaps is not for everybody. But you
Yeah.
seem like a very bright person. I just wanted to like pick your brain and I'm just genuinely curious.
Sure.
You know, if you were to do your startup, or I guess your dream startup, not like necessarily the most productive, the most profitable in today's scenario, just like your dream startup. You know, you just said that your 10-year dream or something similar is to be the CEO. Like, how does that dream look? Like, what sort of company are you building? What product are you making to help just people?
Yeah, for sure. I think it kind of circles back to my point about the creator economy. I would really love to be able to manage and run my own VC fund, right? Where we're working with LPs, limited partners, other folks like family offices, high net worth individuals, celebrities, pension funds, endowments, university funds as well. Working with these LPs to invest money each year into different creators. I think it'd be super interesting, right? We have folks like I mentioned, Charlie D'Amelio, people like DeAndre Brown, like Corporate Baddie. I'm not sure folks who know who that is. Investing into folks like that who are really driving different product services and just the new way we can market to people. Because like I mentioned, 10 years ago, marketing, you know, is completely different. 10 years from now, who knows what it could be. So I would love to kind of invest into you know, that growth and hopefully capitalize on that in some regard financially. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Okay, so I have one more. So
Sure.
I was actually glad to hear, because I was going to ask, you know, what does Julian do in his downtime? What does he do to decompress? It sounds like you've taken up running, which is great, but can you just talk a little about that, about finding that balance between sort of work and, you know, personal life and work? And yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, burnout is so real. I know some folks don't believe in it, but firsthand, I know it for a fact. It's super real. So just having that acknowledgement and just transparency with yourself, saying, hey, I won't get all this done today, and that's okay, right? Because if you kind of consume yourself with work, it will consume you. it will get you every single time, and you're gonna get just frustrated with yourself, with work life, with your coworkers, and that's no fault of their own. It's really up to you as the individual to say, hey, you know what? It's 6 p.m., it's 6:30, it's 7 p.m. Whenever your workday ends and you've done your task and you're checked off your, you know, whatever you use, Asana, Monday.com, your bulletin board, that's it for the night. Literally close your laptop, walk away from it, because you're not adding any other value to stress yourself out. So finding your niche outside the office is just as important as finding your niche in the office as well. So whether that's running like myself, going to the movies, just reading, relaxing, dinner with friends, going out, whatever your thing is, you got to have a thing, because it will consume you to work for sure.
Some great advice, definitely.
Yeah. Trial and error, I've learned.
Anyone else? Any other final questions? That, you know, we have a few minutes left here with Julian. So if you've been kind of thinking about something, anybody on the call?
Don't be shy. Any questions?
Yeah, don't be shy. Sophia.
What does a day in your life look like from start to finish?
Every day is kind of different as chief of staff. So essentially, by a show of hands, do folks know what chief of staff does? Happy to drill down into that as well. If not, it's totally fine.
No, please. Yeah. Tell us. Yeah.
So chief of staff, it's a very hybrid role where I'm picking up special projects. So sometimes like we have like certain business leads. So there'll be like the head of engineering, head of product, head of sales, head of marketing, so forth and so forth. If there's a new project that's, special or time sensitive, folks will look at me and say, I guess Julian's running with it. So it really depends on the day, which is exciting. Some days it's a bit stressful, but I've been enjoying it. Other than that, it's just really providing executive support to not only my CEO and founder, but also the C-suite too. Whether that's fundraising efforts, business development efforts, pitch deck creation, right? We work with different VCs, updating our investor memos. So each month we have to update to our investors how we're doing, because obviously they've invested millions of dollars into our company. Like last spring, we raised our Series A, just under $30 million. So it's a hefty coin. So we have to report into them and show them how their investment is doing. So I handle that every month. I actually have to send it tomorrow, actually. So I handle that. And as far as everything else, just working cross-functionally with different teams as a program manager and making sure we reach and exceed our deadlines, make sure we're meeting our targets, our KPIs, and different milestones. So it's been a great opportunity just to learn from a founder and CEO firsthand, right? Being in the office with him and sitting with other head of departments. It's been great so far, but every day is very different, to be honest. So it's not for everybody.
I've got a question.
Sure.
So, since, being a chief of staff sounds like a pretty, I don't know if like hectic is a good word, but it's like a high capacity role.
Sure, yeah.
Are there things that you do outside of work to just like keep cool, manage the workload?
Yeah.
On like the mental side?
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I have learned is you got to utilize your downtime, right? So for me, what I do is, this, isn't advice, but it's just more of a feedback into what I do, like insight. So every Saturday, enjoy my day. Don't even look at an email. Don't look at Slack or whatever you guys use as far as communication tools. Sunday, usually just either work out, go to church, or the case may be, hang out with my wife. And then around like Sunday, around like 4 p.m., I just carve out 1 hour of my Sunday and just look at, hey, what's the week ahead? What is my CEO doing? What am I doing, right? What does the team have to do? Just 1 hour of my day. And that 1 hour sets me up to be ahead of the curve on Monday morning, because we all get the Monday scaries. I know I do. Like, oh shoot, I have to do this. Oh my God, this meeting, crap. So just that 1 hour of your time. And that works in school as well, right? Where you're kind of going to Sunday, oh, I have to do this assignment, I have to study for that. I wish I did that in college. I might have had a little better GPA. But as long as you're keeping things tactical and you're being intentful with your schedule, you're going to be very successful in whatever you do.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you. Also, are you up in Pleasantville, by the way?
Yeah, I'm in North Hall right now.
Oh yeah, I was in North Hall. Love North.
Spot.
Yeah, okay. Awesome, man. Looks good.
Hey, also I have I guess it's a one word answer question, and it's
sure.
If you have to pick one software, one app, one tool that you would recommend to like 10x your productivity, and like your favorite, I guess, productivity tool, something like a calendar or to-do list, whatever. What app is, that for you? Like what app really helps you, I guess, be, the chief of staff at Milo and also just relax and do all this stuff at the same time?
Yeah, Asana, for sure.
Asana.
I'm a big Asana guy, for sure.
Great.
It helps everyone stay on tact, on the same page, right? There's no loose ends, right? There's no, oh, I forgot to do this, because you get, updates every day on it. So Asana is great for project management.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
I have another question. So in your time, obviously being involved in student government at Pace, you must have and you mentioned, I think your wife is also a graduate. So you
Yeah.
must have friends that maybe weren't all in Lubin. They were maybe from different majors and stuff. So tell us
Yeah.
about maybe some of the jobs that some of your, colleagues and classmates are in. And do you still connect and stay in touch
Yeah,
with them?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny. My best friends were the groomsmen at my wedding. My wife obviously is a PACE graduate. She was in the nursing program, so she's an RN, which is
Nice.
awesome. So well needed. She was working head down in COVID, so she's
Oh, wow.
much more official than me, right? She was doing actual real work. But yeah, I had a lot of friends who were also political science majors, and then I worked for different law firms as like project coordinators and things of that nature. So yeah, PACE has a phenomenal, robust, just overall educational curriculum, no matter what your degree or focus is on. So you really can't lose at PACE. I'm biased, obviously, but that's my opinion.
Well, thank you so much. Any other final questions? This has been wonderful, and I know you're in touch with Eileen and have been at some of our, I think, enrollment events, and so much of the staff here as well in the different departments. So we really appreciate you coming and being a part of the Dean's Roundtable. It was delightful to hear from you and get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely, it was great to be here. Thanks for everyone logging on. I know you're very, very busy. And happy to connect offline as well. Feel free to look into my LinkedIn. I always respond there. And yeah, we'll take it from there. So best of luck, guys, and whatever your endeavors are, and just keep working, stay focused. And a little quote that will end off on, not to be cliche. In the end, everything will be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. Just remember that.